What's up everyone, I hope you're good and welcome to any new subscribers that have recently joined. I really appreciate that and good to have you along. What we're going to do today is go through my first impressions review of the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro, and currently you're speaking to present day Steve, but what we're going to do is go back to 8 days ago when I picked the camera up, and we're going to go through a few different times of testing it in a vlog environment in certain conditions, and also we're going to use it for FPV as well. I'll probably make a separate video on the time-lapse and slow motion features as I've not included that in this video, but I'll get on that soon. So yeah, hope you enjoy the video, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, and if you like the video, please give it a like as well. It would be much appreciated and help the channel out massively. So let's crack on. So here it is then, the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro, and to say this is a first impressions video is a massive understatement. I'm currently driving through sort of the back roads around Birmingham and whatnot to get back to Redditch where I live now, and I'm testing it out for the first time in my car. They come with about 40-50% power straight out the box. So yeah, it's currently on the dash of my car, as you can probably tell, and the settings are not really changed too much from straight out the box. It's on 4K 25 at the moment. It's on normal color profile, shooting in 10-bit though, and everything else is basically on auto in case it needs to readjust. I just want to see what it's like straight out of the box really, and then I'm going to really start to use it and yeah, get my teeth into it and figure all the ins and outs, which shouldn't be too difficult. Is this going to replace my full frame Lumix camera? No. Is it going to be extremely useful for recording in a pinch? Yes. Is it going to be useful for doing some of the more vlogging parts of my YouTube videos, for example, when I'm just walking around somewhere? Yes, of course. And is it going to be mega useful for when I get a freestyle FPV drone and I want to put it on the top of that? Yes, that's probably going to be the most useful thing for me. It really is not that much fun driving around Birmingham and the outskirts of it when you're in a rush. Second test of the Osmo Action 5 Pro in some pretty sketchy conditions. This is not weather for human beings. This is weather for fish. It's fish weather. Right, so I want to talk a bit about settings. Obviously this is just my second test. In the first one when I was driving back from picking it up, I mentioned, I believe, what settings I had on, and it was mostly auto, and I probably put it on the bottom of the screen as well in that shot. So I've done things a bit differently today. What I've done is change the color profile to D-Log M 10-bit instead of normal 10-bit, so I can do a bit of color grading myself and see how that turns out. I've put an ND8 on because it's pretty damn cloudy and horrible, and I've put the shutter speed at 1/200. And whilst we're on the subject of shutter speed and sharpness and whatnot, I know it does have a smaller sensor, obviously a much smaller sensor than a full frame camera or an APS-C or a Micro Four Thirds for that matter. So yes, what people say is right, you are going to get a slightly more digital look, but what's going to make that worse in some of the examples that people have filmed is the fact that some blatantly haven't used an ND filter or the correct shutter speed. So what's going to happen when you're using a smaller action camera sensor and your shutter speed is cranked way up because it's a bright sunny day? Well, you're going to get a more digital look, aren't you? So at least if you have a lower shutter speed with an ND filter on and take away some of the sharpness in the settings, then that should really help towards making it look a bit more, the dreaded word again, cinematic. In terms of stabilization, I'm just using the standard the Rocksteady D-Warp one. We'll see how that looks at first. I'm going to do a test at some point in this video using gyroflow as well, so for that I'll have to shoot in wide. As for the audio, on the day that I bought it a couple of days ago when I did the first test, I didn't connect the one of my Mic 2s with it. I just sort of recorded it separately and then synced it up. So today everything's hooked up now, and the mic kit works in conjunction with the camera, which is awesome because it's all wireless and you just switch it on and it just works. There's no problem whatsoever with that. Really good. I do add a bit of post-processing, so there's probably a little bit of EQing done, but I might do an example later in the video where I've literally done nothing to it. Test number 3 of the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. And I've kind of had to accept by now that, oh, nearly fell over then. I've kind of had to accept by now that all the days that I want to actually get the shooting part of this first impressions video done, I don't think the sky is going to be that kind, because yes, it's absolutely pissing it down again. So what I thought I would do instead was walk through kind of this wooded area, and it's kind of not a full-on low light test because we've got some, but it's grey and horrible, and it's not exactly bright in here. So I'm going to just go through the differences to the settings versus what I had on the last test. Doesn't really matter too much that it's raining for the camera, because I think most action cameras by their nature have some sort of water resistance, because you'd be in trouble if not for some of their use cases. But with this one, as you've probably already seen, for those who do water sports, diving and scuba diving and whatnot, you can take the thing down to 20 meters under the water before even considering having to put a waterproof cage on it, which is great. One of the settings that I've got set differently to what I had on the first couple of tests is the stabilization. So I've now got it set to horizon balance, which should in theory be a lot better for this vlogging kind of stuff, just trod in mud. Oh, a little spider's made a home on it. Some other settings that I did change, in fact, before I forget, are the image adjustment settings. So the sharpness slider seems to be called texture when you use D-Log M, but I think it's just called sharpness when you use the regular color profile. But anyway, nonetheless, I've turned that down to -1 because I think that's probably a good idea on an action camera. And then also the noise reduction, I've turned that down to -1 as well. I didn't want to take it fully off. I just thought I'd take the edge off it a little bit. Looked quite good as it was, to be honest, but I'm just messing around to see what looks best. One thing I do keep forgetting to say is that I've actually been shooting with auto white balance, which goes against everything I would normally say about white balance setting. But the reason being is because there's this color temperature sensor on the front, in where it says Action 5 in the O, on the front of the actual camera itself. And I want to see how good it is, because there's plenty of scenarios where you definitely don't want it on auto, because, you know, if you're, say, flying FPV, you don't want it to keep adjusting all the time when it goes into different lighting in tricky scenarios. But for this, for vlogging or for a few other scenarios, then it might work quite well. All right, so I've just attached the Action 5 Pro to the top of my Avata 2 with this bracket. So I'm going to show you some footage from that shortly. Yeah, the Avata 2, not a huge fan of having an external action camera stuck on it. I mean, you don't really need to. It was only for the purpose of this test. But we've done it, the test is done, there's no problems, the drone is back with me, all safe and sound. I would say next time I do that, the Action 5 is going to be on a freestyle drone. I just quickly run through the settings that I had going on. So it was auto ISO, manual white balance, I had a shutter speed of 1/100 because I was shooting at 50 frames per second, and I was in wide mode with Rocksteady switched off because I would quite like to stabilize it in gyroflow and see how it looks. So hopefully you enjoy it. It's just a very short bit of FPV just to show you what it looks like in its current state. Okay, so here we are back in the car again, this time to test super night mode. I'm not using a mic 2 for this one. There's a couple of clips where I've just used the internal mic, so we'll see what that's like as well. But for the settings for super night mode, I don't know if I've made a bad choice here or not, but I've set it so the shutter stays at 1/50. And then I've got the ISO to, I've got basically everything else to auto. To be honest with you, super night mode, it looks great. I don't think there's a use for it in kind of low light situations. It needs to be extremely low light, such as this, because otherwise you could shoot in the normal 10-bit or you could shoot in D-Log M. Could possibly get better results that way, because super night mode is exactly that, really good for super nighttime. The rest of the time you're not going to want that kind of additional noise reduction and the sharpening that it also gives as well. But like I say, in a really dark situation like this, maybe it'd be very useful. The thing about low light and cameras is that it's exactly that, low light, not zero light. They're not miracle workers, they can't just conjure up some sort of light source. You need you need something. Okay, so this is my verdict, I guess, after 1 week, just over 1 week of owning the Osmo Action 5 Pro. Can't really say much else apart from the fact that I'm really impressed with it so far. Not had any problems in the amount of times I've used it. Obviously, there's basically been 2 use cases so far. There's been vlogging and testing that in the low light and stuff, and also a bit of the stabilization stuff, and then also the FPV. So if you've got any thoughts on any of the video clips that I've shown you, or anything to do with the camera, then please, you know, drop it in the comments and stuff, let me know, and I'll try and get back to you. Thanks to you all for watching the video, I really do appreciate that. And like I say, if you got any feedback, stick it in the comments. If you could give it a like if you like the video, that'd be brilliant. And also, if you could subscribe, then it would be great to grow this channel some more. And I'm super grateful of how much it has so far. I mean, it's not a big channel by any stretch, but I've had quite a lot of new subscribers recently. I nearly forgot to mention as well that I've got some affiliate links in the description for this camera and for some of the DJI stuff like the drones and whatnot. So if you fancy using that, if you're looking at getting them, then that would be most appreciated. Thank you. Thanks for your support, and yeah, catch you soon.